Would it piss you off if you heard someone got probation for a hit and run accident where someone was killed? If it would piss you off, watch the following podcast where Tim McLamee, he's a career investigator. He and I sat down. He brought this info to me. We talk about this case in depth. It happened 2 years ago. A very high profile case in Zandt County. In fact, it was solved really because of the help of a lot of followers on social media that helped find the vehicle and the suspect. And subsequently, she got arrested for that. But probation is the current offer. And there are recent developments. I have a court transcript right here of a recent hearing regarding this whole case, and the details are going to blow your mind. If you don't like and follow the Alexander Hour on YouTube, it'd mean a lot to me if you did. It helps me keep going and doing these videos to a wider audience. Also, stay tuned to the end of this video. I want to clarify a few things that are in this court transcript that were left out of the video between Tim and I, and also just a few of my thoughts. It'll only be a few minutes, so hang around at the end. Enjoy this video.
Have to kind of tiptoe around this one because I do not want to harm the case itself. But there's things that need to be brought to the public's attention on this case. So this is a well-known family. I know the family. Matter of fact, my son-in-law is kin to the family. It's a big family to the Martins Mill area. It's a criminal case pending prosecution, and I'm not going to use the names because I do not want Tonda or the defense attorney to try and use this podcast as a reason to get out of trying the case again or change the venue.
Is this case currently in litigation?
That's correct. This is a criminal case. It was specially set last summer, and it should have happened a week ago. So you have a special setting on it. The thing about this case here is there's some things in here I do not understand because it makes no sense. It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to a lot of other people who are in the prosecution defense world either. So this case here, we have a young lady. It's nighttime. She goes down in the mailbox and she never comes back. The family finds her at the mailbox. She's been struck by a vehicle. The vehicle left the scene. A day or two later, through investigative work of the family and DPS, they identify the vehicle and they have charged a lady with the victim's death. Okay? So you have leaving the scene of the accident with a death. That's going to be a felony. I think there was a DWI filed because, alleged was intoxicated on it. And there was a few other things on that case. So, as this case was supposed to go to trial a week ago, let's back up 6 weeks ago. It really wasn't quite 6 weeks ago. But for the sake of this podcast, we're going to use 6 weeks ago. The DNA finally come back from DPS and formed a nexus. So it made the case stronger. Better for the government, worse for the defense. Let's keep it simple. Historically, the better the government's case gets, the stronger the offer of a plea gets. So about 6 weeks ago, there was an offer from the DA's office, from Tonda Curry, to the defendant's attorney of 8 years in prison. Okay? I think that anybody, the punishment range isn't much greater than that, 8 years to do. But then the DNA comes back and the case seems like it's coming together better. Yet all of a sudden it goes from 8 years in prison to a probation officer. What changed in there?
This case was a high-profile case in the county. I remember it. It was a social media case where there was
Correct.
a lot of talk about it.
That's it.
For those that are trying to figure it out, they probably figured it out.
I'm not going to say it.
Right.
It's not going to be me that gets to change the venue.
They figured it out immediately with your first couple sentences. So you're saying that someone, in exchange for someone's life, was probably going to have to do right about a decade in prison. Right?
Correct. You know, and nobody can say how long anyone's going to do in Texas prison. That's 100% up to Texas prison system.
But that's what was being floated around, you're saying.
Correct.
And then 6 weeks later,
It goes
which is
to
the time you get a
probation.
report card in school, it's gone to probation.
And the case got stronger.
I'm trying to figure out, what
which
would
makes-
the DNA be on a case like this?
Well, the DNA would be the nexus of the DNA of the victim on the vehicle. Okay? So the vehicle had quite a bit of damage to it. So you have forensic evidence on the vehicle. You
And I
take
asked that question because that's a smoking gun.
Yeah, you
Tanner,
take
you're
the
saying.
forensic, exactly. That's why under Martin and Dixon, I could see them two going from 8 to 10 years. The case gets stronger, the offers only go up. They never go down on it. So I'm watching the case like a lot of other people are. And I'm talking to people in the courtroom and that's involved in the case a little bit. And whenever it goes to probation, I'm like, that makes no sense. But I didn't say anything. I thought, okay, I'm not in the loop. So this hearing that I'm going to refer to, I believe this hearing is online. So there was a hearing about this, and they floated the offer to the district judge. They wanted to come in and plead her to probation. Well, the district judge busted the plea. That's what it's called. The district judge, Martin, did not approve the plea offer. Now, the district judge, they have different requirements, but one of them is what's essentially what's in the best interest of the community. And a judge can, without any explanation, decide something is not in the best interest of the community. So our district judge made that decision, and I thought it was a good decision. It's not uncommon to have pleas busted. They bust them in Smith County all the time. Smith County is a machine where I'm at most of the time. So, and you have multiple district judges over there and county judges. So when the district judge busts the plea and they don't accept that, that's forcing them to trial. That means you have to either go back, redo your plea, or we're going to go to trial, as it should be. I don't even know if they would. I do not believe Smith County DA's office would, with this case, they would have never came up with probation. Smith County would give you a life sentence in a heartbeat, even if you're a first offender.
So let me ask you this. If the judge kicks it out, and you're not a lawyer, I'm not a lawyer, you've been around. If the judge, the district judge kicks out a case from the DA there in his own county and says, hey, I don't like it, that means it didn't pass the sniff test. Like this stinks. And that tells me that, I haven't been in the courtroom, but that tells me that maybe the DA or the facts say that this female went out of her way to hide the fact that maybe she was guilty, allegedly. And so that tells me the judge is like, no, we're not doing that. So where does the case sit now?
So the plea gets busted. It's set for trial. That occurred to us quite often when I was at the DA's office, not necessarily a busted plea, but the judge say, this is a special setting, we're going to trial, come hell or high water. And that's how it should be. This case has been set since last summer. DNA had been in. Everything met the timelines. Let's go to trial. It is time that this family gets justice. It is time that the defendant has their opportunity in court. It's a two-way street. The victim's family, they're ready for court. The defendant is ready for court. That's how it should be, you know, to both sides get their day in court.
This should be a great case for a jury of peers in the
Of Van
county to
Zandt
be
County
able to
people. That's
decide.
right. That's right. This is a great case to let the people of Van Zandt County make a decision. What are we going to do if the defendant is found guilty? Because right now they're innocent. If the defendant is found guilty, what should be the punishment for that behavior in Van Zandt County?
Gotcha.
All right. So this thing on this hearing that I watched online was on like a Thursday. Well, Friday, I think it was that Friday, the defense attorney files a motion to recuse the district judge. So the defense attorney wants Judge Martin off the case. That's what it means. Normally, from any recusal I've ever seen or been involved in or watched, the defense attorney has a right to do that. But the defense attorney is going to go it on their own. The prosecution is never going to assist the defense. But that's not what happened in this case here. What happened was Judge Alfonso Charles, who's a presiding judge out of Longview, comes up and has this hearing. Now, I have the transcript from that hearing. So this is the official transcript. Again, it's not Tim's opinions. This is the transcript from that hearing. It's public record. I paid for it, but that's okay. You can have it. So whenever I'm looking at the transcript, let me back up. I knew that when I ordered the transcript, I knew that Judge Charles denied the motion to recuse. So Judge Martin is still the presiding judge over that case. Now, in my opinion, and you can read it, I'll leave this for you. Judge Charles, he understands that if attorneys don't like what a judge says or a ruling from the judge, and they just file a motion to recuse because they don't like that judge, that's never going to work. That's trying to sidestep the entire system.
And it might affect their relationship going forward, right? Saying,
If I was a judge, it would,
right,
without a doubt. But I can't speak for this judge,
right,
at all. So I'm reading this transcript and I'm looking through it, and something just jumps out at me. And I have never seen this before. So in this transcript, and by all means, you can read it.
What page are we on there?
We're on page 6. It appeared to me immediately that Tonda Curry and the defense attorney went into this hearing holding hands. That's something we never did. Now, that doesn't mean that a defense attorney and the DA dislike each other. What it means is you should have the professional ability to remain friends outside the courtroom. But when you walk in that courtroom, you have a job to do. And sometimes it gets nasty in there. But that's just what it is. That's jury trials. So, but in this case here, Tonda Curry and the defense attorney, they're holding hands on this hearing.
Telling the judge, we don't want to be in front of
That's
you
correct.
anymore.
Both
we want
of
a
them.
different audience to get a plea that we like.
That's essentially, that's the way I read it. That's the way I take it.
But the other judge said no.
That's correct. That's correct. Judge Charles said, no, we're not going to do that. But here's the part that gets me here. Let me get to it here. So on page 6, number 3, in this case, the judge made a substantive ruling on what is best for the community without knowing any facts. Remember, I told you he had to make that, he busted the plea because he didn't feel like it was the best interest of the community. He does not, and this is Tonda Curry talking, by the way. So this is Tonda on the record. Tonda says he does not know whose fault this crash was. He does not know that, in fact, it was the victim who was at fault in this crash. So that line there, Tonda Curry, on the record, holding hands with the defense attorney, blames the victim for their own death.
Do you think the family knows that she uttered that line yet?
They do now. I guarantee you they know.
You think there's going to be a big stink about it?
Well, see, here's the thing. Again, because something's legal doesn't make it right. There's a lot of things that are technically legal. They're just unethical as they can be. And in my opinion, whenever you have a district attorney like Tonda Curry walking into a hearing, holding hands with a defense attorney, both attacking the district judge because they don't like that he wants the Van Zandt County community to make a decision. That's what it boiled down to. This case here, everything they did was to keep the Van Zandt County citizens from making a decision on this case. And the district judge, in my opinion, took the right stance. He understood that Van Zandt County citizens need to make decisions on these cases. But I've never seen a district attorney just outright blame the victim for their own death. This is admissible back in court. So she's going to eat that line. Now, There's multiple offenses from that night, tampering with evidence and some other things. Leaving the scene of an accident, that's an offense of its own. So if you have the accident and she leaves the scene, I do not know that that statement alone will affect that case. I'm not an attorney. I believe that it would probably not really affect the leaving the scene of the accident case. However, that's not the point. The point is, we have a district attorney that would gladly hold hands with a defense attorney to try and get our district judge off a case because they don't want the people of Zandt County to make a decision.
Because I'm guessing, and I'm looking at the camera, if the people decide, I'm under the impression she's going to jail for a while.
Well, it doesn't matter. If a jury wants to give her probation, by golly, let them give her probation. Let's honor that. Let's thank them for their service. Yeah. Our system works as it should.
I get what you're saying. Like, they at least need the opportunity to do it.
That's right.
But from what I've heard on the street, it'd be rough. But I know that's not. That's
well,
pure speculation.
Whenever you lose the vast majority of your trials, like Tonda does. Now, this case here this is a case that we could max out under Leslie or Chris Martin. I guarantee you. We could have got a maximum sentence on it with a jury because you have the DNA. You have multiple statements. You have a good, solid case. Again, remember, the case was getting stronger the closer to court it was getting. Closer to trial, the case is getting stronger and stronger.
I'm not a juror, but if you tell me in front of the courtroom, hey, there's the victim's DNA's on this car, I mean, that's going to be hard for me to overcome there. I mean,
yeah, and this podcast will probably get thrown out of the county. There'll probably be a change of venue filed the day after this thing comes out. But
well,
again,
you didn't just bring it here to talk about this. I'm assuming that you're trying to show why the DA and the attorney are.
Well, see, that's the thing.
What motivation?
Why? What's the motivation to it? Now, I do have her campaign contribution forms here, and
I knew you were bringing something.
This defense attorney did donate her to her campaign. Of at least $1,000. But again, now that's not really uncommon. You know, there will be a lot of defense attorneys, donate money. That's also not a Zandt County defense attorney. So that got me looking at her campaign filings again. And what I see here is there's a lot of criminal defense attorneys giving her money. There's one in here that give her $10,000.
Who is it?
It's a law firm out of Tyler. I'll leave them for you. So whenever you have criminal defense attorneys donating large sums of money to the prosecutor for their campaign reelection, after you know she'll buy a Mercedes to drive around town in, it sure makes you ask questions. Now, do I believe that these defense attorneys out of Tyler did a quid pro quo? No. I know two of them very well. They're not about to. But that doesn't mean that she won't. And she has proven that she has no ethics left in her at all. So I also have a hypothesis. I believe that Tonda Curry is going to get beat by Richard Schmidt because she should be. She's going to finish out her term through the end of December because she has to. She's not going to resign no matter how many times I ask her to because she won't vest with the state system until she finishes the last day of her 8-year term. This is her second 4-year term. So she will vest with the state. Her last day of office, if Richard Schmidt beats her, she will then have state insurance and state benefits forever. Then we're going to see her pop back up in Tyler working with one of these criminal defense firms. Now, that's my prediction. And I've been pretty solid on my predictions of her for the past 5 years because I have stayed on top of her for 5 years.
The transcript that Tim kept mentioning in the video I have right here, and I wanted to clarify something that was not read aloud in our video. Again, this is a transcript from the hearing for the motion to recuse the judge. This is an excerpt. If you want this, private message me and I'll send you the PDF. The part that I want to speak on, I just want to follow up on what Tim was saying. Tonda was on the record that it was the victim's fault. The part that wasn't read in the remaining paragraph, again on page 6, she also goes on to say he, being Judge Martin, does not know that the parents of the victim, in part, want this plea agreement because the father has an illness and doesn't want the possibility of an appeal after trial because he wants finality in his last days. What I'm here to do is present this case to the public so you can determine whether or not you think the DA's office has handled it correctly. I can't imagine, the weight and the pressure of being a district attorney in any county, right? It's got to be a lot. You got to keep people happy. You got to go do this. You got to do that. And I'm not pretending that I can do Tonda's job. But this overall, I think, is going to tick some people off. I consulted with an attorney, and he said if they're offering probation, which is a complete 180 from just a few weeks before when they wanted her to go to prison, this attorney who's not in the area said that tells me that she being Tonda was not confident in something on the case. They didn't have something they needed. They may struggle against a worthy opponent, which she has a high-paid attorney. This is important. Tonda may have a great explanation for this. I hope that she'll give me an opportunity to relay that to you. Thanks for watching the Alexander Hour.